Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome to SAFRA Tampines live show with sports scientist Julian and me, Etienne. Today, we'll be talking a bit more about how we can improve performance. So it's slightly different from what we did the last time. Last time, we were helping everyone to get back to sports after the circuit breaker. So now, I hope some of you have started going out, maybe running a bit more, although most of the sports facilities are not open yet, but we are slowly easing back into normal activities again. So today we want to give you a bit more tips on how to improve on sports performance. And recently I posted this live show on my Facebook, and I was talking about how even though when we always say, okay, today play only, like today is a slow run, but at the end of the day, there's this competitive streak in us that we will want to outdo our opponents, or we want to score a few more points, or actually do a bit more better than previously. So this topic for today is really going to be useful for some of us. And why we call the live show Sports Hack, because I think some of you would understand like what is a hack. So a hack, right, is a shortcut basically. It's a way of doing things more efficiently using less time and probably less effort. So it will be really useful for some of you guys who have already been doing something, training very hard. Julian and I will share a bit more on how you can further improve on that. And maybe you have been running good mileage, but what is one thing that you can do, right, to give you a bit more edge? Or you have been playing badminton quite frequently, you have been putting in, you have good technique, but somehow you hit a plateau. Maybe what is one thing, right, that you can do? Julian and I will share some long-term programs and some immediate things you can do maybe over the next games. You can try and incorporate into your training or into your games with your friends, and you see if it works. And if it works, do drop us a comment. And in the Facebook live section, you can drop us a comment. And remember, this is quite interactive. You want to answer your questions. I think that's the most important. It's very different from watching a YouTube video and just reading off the slides and looking at what we are talking about. We want this to be interactive. Ask us questions, and we want to help you find some solutions. And next up, Julian will show you guys a Mentimeter. We want to know more about you before we start the show. And this is Julian will explain a bit more about that. Over to you, Julian.
Hi everyone, Julian here. All right, so first up, right, we just want to know what sports are you playing during the weekends, right? So you're going to use this platform to get your answers, right? So there's two ways of doing it. You can see if you're on the laptop, you can go into mentimeter.com, right? Then you can enter the code over there is 873867, right? The second way is like how we're doing the check-in to our supermarkets, shopping centers. Just use your mobile phone, grab it, right? Capture the QR code over there, right? Then enter your answers, right? All right. Yes.
Yeah.
So come
don't
on.
take out HBB. Use a camera app or QR code scanner. Don't use any other QR code scanner. But this is quite often, right? Sometimes, Julian, we ask our athletes to scan something. Some of them will take out HBB, Health Hub scanners, and they will take out some other scanners just to scan a QR code.
All right. We have basketball, table tennis, archery. Nice crowd. Any more coming in? Right.
Yeah, just let us know.
We're expecting more of like soccer, right? Yeah. It's because it's like definitely like the most played sport in Singapore, right?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, football is really one of the most popular ones. It's I think it's unofficially our national sport. And I think some of you have heard about it. Go 2003-4. It's quite an uphill task, I must say, honestly. But if we are able to maybe put in some sports hack today, who knows, we might reach it together. But I'm not sure where it will be held, Oh, there are more coming. Twerk. Julian, is twerk a sport?
I don't know. I'll throw the question to you. Is twerking a sport to you?
It's twerking a sport to me. Okay, actually a good question, So before you even answer what is a sport, right? There's in the sports science realm, we have a definition. So a sport is an activity with actually rules. So that's why sometimes back I think a decade ago, chess was one of the Olympic sports because there's a rule in the activity. So anything with a rule, right, you can define as a sport. Yeah. So twerking, right, if you have a rule to that twerking activity, well, you can pretty much call it a sport, but I'm not sure if it's going to appear in the Olympics or the ASEAN game. And probably, I don't know whether we are good enough to give you a hack for twerking. You can? You think you can?
I'd rather not on this platform.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Right. Nice.
Okay.
Okay, so great. Thank you so much for all your inputs. It's very important because we want this session for you today. That means we want to give you more examples on what kind of sports you play. And if Julian and I can give you certain things like, for example, like archery, like basketball or football, we want to tell you like what kind of things that we have done in our training with elite athletes that could be useful for you. So a quick intro to ourselves first, so that you know who is actually sharing this information with you, and probably get to know us a bit more better. So for me, right, I'm Etienne, and I've been a sports scientist for the last 10 years. Worked mainly with athletes, elite athletes in Football Association and even professional athletes. Some of them are playing overseas, some of them are professional footballers in Switzerland, and this is quite a niche market. I don't think this is so, because for most people, when you think about sports performance, sometimes you might go look for a personal trainer, or you might have you can look at YouTube. But if you really want to understand more about sports, it's the best if you can find a trusted sports scientist like us and to ask about it, because that's what we study and that's what we practice. It's pretty much like if you want to learn how to pull a shot of good espresso, the first person you will go to is a barista, because the person is actually the person studied sports. So pretty much 4 years in Football Association, and now we are running our own project, and we want to share more good sports science information to everyone to enhance sports performance. So once I feel why we set up this project is because we think that sports science is not only for elite athletes. Everybody can enjoy it. And after today's live show, you understand a bit more why. And like we have done work with Ultimate Frisbee team, and some of them have shown pretty good improvement just with simple tips. From playing Frisbee recreationally, they started to play Frisbee at a more competitive level and even represent the country. And this is something that we want to share with you all and maybe have a bit more fun. And next up, we have Julian to talk a bit more about himself and what he has done for the last time.
Right. So hi, I'm Julian here. Right. So I've been involved in high performance strength conditioning for the past 10 years for elite, national, and amateur level athletes. So like Ife, been in scene for some time, but basically been focusing a lot more on strength and power sports, like badminton, basketball, and track and field athletes. Right. So I've also completed my master's degree in sports science, specifically investigating the efficacy of training protocols in enhancing athletic performance. And this has actually really gave me a lot of and this journey, right, has actually gave me a lot of experience, right, and strategies into how to actually train athletes to improve their strength and power performance, right. Furthermore, my studies and my research actually been translated into scientific publications in peer-reviewed journals. And so that has been my journey for the past 10 years, right? And now it's my aim, right, is a lot, to try to translate a lot of the jargons in sports science literature, right, into really everyday practice that, everyday coach or an everyday athlete, for instance, the weekend warriors, to really practice and infuse into their own training.
All right, great, nice. And okay, Julian, the next part about what Julian is going to do, he's going to talk more about why is it so important, right, to understand what it takes to perform. Okay, and one of the most important things, right, is really about what are the few performance factors that will determine how fast you can run on court or how hard you can smash the badminton. shuttlecock. Okay, so Julian will talk a bit more before coming back to me again. Okay, over to you again, Julian.
Yep. All right. So we actually posted out, like a feedback form, right, or just a questionnaire of like asking like, what are the common questions that we everyone want to know how to get better in your sport, right? So one common question that came back was like how to be more powerful in my sport, right? So like badminton athletes like want to know how I can get a more powerful smash, right? A basketball player want to know like how I can drive past my friends to the basket quicker, faster, right? And even like the everyday or the weekend soccer athlete, right, want to know how to really convert his free kick, right, into a powerful drive, right? So how to be more powerful at my sport, right? So if you're going back to school, right, the physics of power, right, it's actually a combination between force and velocity, right? But there's actually many ways to try to train power in the end, right? If you bring yourself into the facility or gym, right? So you can see, right, one big way, right, is to actually increase the force component, right? Okay, with a low velocity, will help you to ultimately raise the power output for your performance. Okay, so how to increase the force component, right? There are exercises out there, right? That what we call strength speed exercises, and these typical exercises, right, are meant to increase the force aspect of your power production, right? So commonly, the exercises that are done, right, are usually the snatch exercise or the clean exercise. So you can see the picture on the left over here. When I train the track and field athletes, it's very common they actually are doing this kind of exercises to make themselves sprint faster, jump higher, etc. like that, right? But you can see from these exercises, right, like how you watch on Olympic Games, these Olympic lifts are really very technical in nature, right? They do require you to master the technique from young. They do require you to be really, very flexible around your hips, right, around your shoulders, around your wrists, right, to really master the technique very proficiently, right? But lately in literature, right, they have shown, right, that actually what you can do alternatively are actually to incorporate what we call weightlifting derivatives, right? So for example, one weightlifting derivatives is the high pull exercise. You can see myself trying to do it professionally over here on the right, right? So this is high pull exercise, right? So you can see it's much relatively easier, right? Less technical, easier to do. And furthermore, right, with this exercise, you can actually lift more weights, right, compared to that, to the clean or the snatch, right? Right. So the main purpose of increasing strength, power through the strength exercises is the force component, right? So you can actually put more weights onto the bar, right, and produce more force and ultimately more power for your movements.
And Julian, I have a question actually.
Mm.
For somebody, right, who has not done this kind of exercises, how do you think they should start to maybe try to learn these fantastic exercises to increase power? What do you recommend?
Oh, all right. So it's like you never done it before, right? It's like before even you go to the gym, touch a barbell, right? Definitely, you need to practice it with a broomstick, right? There's some simple things that even like weightlifters will always be practicing, right? So like weightlifter for warm up would always use a broomstick just to groove the movement, get it right. And of course, right, such technical movements, right, you probably need the eye of a good coach, right, to guide you through the exercises, right, instead of just you watching YouTube videos to try to learn it on your own. Yeah, there's a great question that coming from Ken, right? So, how does these exercises help in sports like badminton or football, right? So all these exercises, right, you focus on power, right? So I mentioned like getting more powerful, right, in your jumps, right? Especially I would say specifically for badminton, right? If you when I'm training the national athletes beforehand, getting a more powerful smash is the key, right? So to get a more powerful smash, right, involves also both your lower body and upper body. Right? Remember, lower body is of course you want to jump higher, right? The higher you are, right, at the peak of your jump, you're able to smash at a more like a greater and sharper angle, right? And also for upper body, right, you need to really twist your torso, move your arms and shoulders, and have a faster and more powerful smash, right, to really ultimately result in a faster shuttlecock speed, right? Yeah. So all these power movements from your lower body, upper body, syncing it up, right, translate to a better and more powerful smash. And since
And also,
Ethan,
may I add?
you're a soccer athlete,
Yeah,
how are you
correct.
related?
Because I specialize in football fitness, if I mentioned earlier. For some of the exercises that Julian had introduced, they are fantastic exercises. And if the more serious weekend warriors, which and I've seen pretty competitive weekend warriors, they might seem like they played during the weekend, but they actually train more than professional athletes. So simple barbell exercises like this, barbell cleans, right? If you have gone through what Julian has advised, good technique, it actually can help to build a good base. What do I mean by a base? It's like a foundation for you to do more complex stuff on the field, such as sprinting in different directions. Okay, and those are like staples. Those exercises that Julian pretty much explained just now, they are staples of elite athletes also. Pretty much, I would say most elite athletes, 90% of elite athletes, they can do those movements. And if the weekend warriors, right, you can do those movements, you will be a notch above your opponents, because based on my experience, I do realize that many people don't actually practice this, right? Even in the gyms, you see in the gyms, people usually go squats, because these are quite complex exercises. So these exercises, to give you that foundation. And the main difference is you have power, and power is what Julian is explaining now. Yeah, and that is one of the key performance indicator in sports.
All right. Okay. So like power, right? Okay. Like since it's a key performance indicator of sport, we want to really learn how to train it. Right. So we covered on how to increase the force aspect of the power. Right. So now on the other side of the equation, we can also focus on the velocity aspect or the speed aspect of power. Right. You want to generate the force, right? How much you have as fast as possible. Right. So a common way of doing it is to do plyometric exercises, right?
I like
and
this.
If you're going to Google or search on YouTube plyometric exercises, right? A common one that's being done is the box jump. And you can see over here when I was previously training in basketball athletes, the Singapore slingers, right? A common staple exercise for plyometrics is the box jump. But you can see over the video on the left over here. Okay, the guy in the yellow does it pretty well, but the one on the white, right, is actually not doing it as well, right? So a common thing, right, is, or my pet peeve is like, if you search it on YouTube, right, you can see, right, a lot of like people are showing off how high they can jump for the box jump, right? They pile up the weight plates, they stack up the chairs to see how high they can jump. But you can see over here, right, it's not how high they jump, but how high they bring their knees up to clear the obstacle, right? So in the end, they're actually not training to be powerful or training to jump higher, right? So if you can take reference, right, to the video on the right where I'm doing the box jump or trying to do a much better form of the box jump, if your aim, right, at the end is to try to land with straight legs, right, definitely you'll be actually jumping a greater distance, right? So if we take what we call the center of mass, right, or where we aggregate the whole body mass through our body, it's roughly at our belly button region, right? So if you can think of it, I want to project my belly button as high as I can, right? Then definitely you'll be actually improving the power output through a proper utilization of plyometric exercises. All right. Okay, so that's power for sports, right? But a common question also when we send out the feedback form or the survey was, how do I be quicker for my sport, right? So definitely, yeah, we have badminton athletes in the chat group, basketball and football. How do you think, right? Like, being quicker in your sport helps you, right? Feel free, to write down in the comments on the Facebook page, right? How does being quicker help a soccer athlete, Ife? Right, you can share with us. The sound, Ife.
Oh, what is quicker? Is it something to do with how fast you can dribble with the ball, or how fast you can get past your opponent? So there are many definitions, but let's just stick to one. How can you sprint faster, like get off from a starting state, right? And like what Julian has shared with you guys just now about the plyometrics, if some of you don't have boxers, because some of the plyometric boxers, I would say they are professionally made, so they're quite sturdy. And I wouldn't recommend you trying to get a chair and jump over it. It's going to be pretty much unsafe. And simple ones would be just standing broad jumps. Where you do in the army, you can do multiple standing broad jumps, but I wouldn't recommend like going for volume, doing 100 standing broad jumps. I think gone are the days where we value volume over quality. And simple ones would be to do 2 to 3 standing broad jumps continuously and trying to go for a distance and taking a good break in between just to get yourself refreshed before the next set. So this can be quicker, but again, right, it's only in one direction. What you really want to do is multiple directions. So you can also do jumps sideways or even diagonal jumps or zigzag jumps and just using body weight and without any equipment. And if you can do it consistently, even once a week for the weekend warriors, compared to doing nothing, I'm sure over the period of 2 to 3 months, you'll be definitely quicker.
Right.
Right? What do you think?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Right. Like yeah, it's very common, right? That quickness, speed, agility, right? It's common, like facets that you need to develop in field-based sports, right? Such as basketball, soccer, or even like the sport badminton, right? You need speed, right, to really conquer the drop shot, right? You need to quickly launch to the net, right? So quickness and being powerful, are really good components to really edge out your friends in a a competitive like or friendly game, right? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So if you Google like quickness, right, for training, or how do I train quickness, right, on YouTube, probably you have like 101 videos showcasing the ladder, right? So many years back, typically it's like the ladder is being used to train a lot of like agility, right? So it's like you can see like soccer, the first thing the coach will lay out the ladder for people to do, right? Then in the gyms, right, they'll be painting the a fixed ladder onto the floor, right? So like people will be like doing a lot of drills and then play hopscotch. Yeah, it's a modern hopscotch, right?
Actually, that's not bad, For the kids, lah.
Yeah, but the true agility, right? Okay, when you been through the encyclopedia, right? So when I was looking through the encyclopedia, like last week.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
His hobby is reading encyclopedia. Julian's hobby.
So the definition of agility, right, is a rapid whole body change of direction and speed in response to a stimulus, right? So it's like highlight that stimulus, right? In the context of sport, a stimulus means trying to evade the opponent, right? When you see the opponent changing direction, right? It can be going towards an implement such as a badminton shuttlecock, a soccer ball when it is being kicked from one direction to one place to the other, right? And it can even be like instructions from the coach that's shouting at the sideline there. They quickly can cut into the space, right? So you can see there's actually a lot of stimuli, right, that happens within sports where you have a need to react to it, right? So definitely using a ladder, doing the multiple drills in and out, right, doesn't actually have really true transference to that within the game.
Agree.
So yeah, if I can play this video, right, you can have a better understanding of how true agility training should be like. Yeah. So these are American football athletes.
And Julian has really brought out a good point. It's really what you do, right, should be similar to what you are going to do in your training, on your match, on your friendly games. They are like friendly games with your friends. If the drills don't really translate, and like the agility drill, it's good for coordination, quick fit, like for children who is trying to adjust their footwork, right? It's okay. But if you think about it, how many times do we do this stepping, right, in an actual situation? You don't do quick fit for 6 to 7 meters in a badminton court. That will hardly happen, right?
So I know maybe if you're training for like a professional athlete for DDR, maybe then you need to do all the quick fit exercise.
Yeah, wow.
Dance plus revolution.
Yeah. Correct. And I would think dance and revolution is even better than agility ladder because, like what Julian said, there's stimulus to it. You're reacting to something.
All right. Okay. So the common question also that was being asked, right, through our feedback form was like, how strong should I be for my sport, right? It's typically like you see like rugby athletes, right, basketball athletes, right, they go in the gym always, like it's part of their training, right? But like let's say you're the recreational runner, right, or even the professional marathon runner, do you think they go to the gym to work out? Yeah, so that's like a common question that people ask, right? Or even a marathon athlete is like, do I need to increase my strength to score my PB for the Standard Chartered?
Yeah.
Right. So with every sport, right? Okay, right. Like there's actually an interplay between all these what we call biomotor abilities. Right. You can see there's four main biomotor abilities such as strength, endurance, and speed, and a little bit of flexibility and coordination. Right. Okay. So actually some sports need more than the other, right? But within all sports, right, there's always some element of each biomotor ability. Okay. So if you can dive deep, right, into literature, right? So this book back in 2018, right, showcases, right, different sports have different emphasis of percentage, right, of these three biomotor abilities, right? So if I can take an example over here, right, they put there this is American football, right? So we can relate it to sports such as rugby in a local setting. You can see actually like the strength, right, or the sport, right, requires right maybe 50%, right, of strength and 50% of speed to excel within the sport,
Mm.
right? And a very low
Mm.
emphasis on endurance, right? In comparison to that, right, something that more familiar with like basketball and soccer, right? There's less emphasis on strength, right, but more emphasis on speed and endurance to last the game, right? Within a soccer game, 90 minutes definitely needs some aspect of endurance. Okay, then
Julian, may I
with
ask a question? What are all
yeah,
these? There's a question from the audience.
mm,
Within the triangle, there's a circle with an
mm.
alphabet in it. What does it
Mm.
represent? And
Oh, it's
also
just
the F, S, and E. Maybe you can explain to that person who asked the question.
okay. I mean, good
Mm.
question. Sorry, that didn't clarify earlier, right? So if I take marathon example, right, the M means just represent the sport marathon only. F,
Mm.
right, okay, it's force, right? Because they try to not put an S again, right? It will also be another S here, right? So it's force, it's
Mm.
the strength. Then after that, S here is speed, E is endurance, right? So they want to just differentiate like the differentiation between all the biomotor abilities and see where the sport lies within this triangle, right? So you can see over marathon over here, right? Definitely is highly emphasis on the endurance aspect, right? Not saying you don't need any force, not saying you don't need any speed, right? You need some aspect of it, right? We will dive in later of why we need to have trained also those abilities in training.
Mm. And Julian, what if
Mm.
my sport is not within the one that's listed here? How can I know what
Mm.
is the dominant fitness that I need? For example,
Mm.
you
For
know, like,
example.
okay, for example, volleyball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I
Mm.
mean, the like a professional, sports science professional will say, will if we don't know the sport of volleyball, right, we'll dive into the journals and go and see like what are the
Mm.
physiological measurements, right? What are the standards that require to be excel in the sport of uh, volleyball, right? And for yourself, right, that, like you don't have the access to journals is really, really hard, right? Unless you're in a university setting. What you can do anecdotically is to look at how the physique is like for world class athletes, right? So if I can give you an example of like I'm not so familiar about volleyball. I don't go Sentosa every weekend like Ife, right? So if I if I focus on something more like I'm familiar with,
Now free
right?
entry.
Yeah. Right, for is basketball, right? Like NBA, right? It's
Mm.
back on TV now again, right? So if you watch the sport
Yes,
of
yes.
basketball, right, you can actually
Mm.
see the different players, right, or the different
Yeah.
the guard, right, or and within the center, right, they have different physiques, right. From there, actually, like, oh, maybe a guard, right, is huge, big, right. Definitely, he'll need a lot more gym, you need more strength, right, versus that of a guard, right. Like a point guard, we see him running all over the place, trying to score like the free throws. So definitely a lot more speed, right, is needed within the game, right. Then after that, you're going to see, oh, actually the game also lasts, fourth quarters. We need them to last for the 4 quarters. Definitely some element of endurance is needed for it. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Mhm. And yes, we have a question here from Ken, right? So how about archery, right? Where would the focus be, right? So yeah, maybe I would say over here, right? In the game of like baseball, right? Okay, right? It's more similar to it, right? So let's say in baseball, minusing running from like what do you call it? Corners, is it? Whatever for baseball. You understand what I mean, right?
Base,
Yeah,
the
you
base,
run,
the base. I think
the
it's the
base,
base.
running the base for different bases, right? If you
That is
minus
football.
for that, right? Then probably a sport of like archery needs a little bit more of like the strength element, right? Not only just to to pull the bow, right? But also like to be really stable within the torso and the core, right? To really make sure that you're able to be really very stable for the spot, right? So the stability actually affects the accuracy of the shot, I believe, right? Yeah. Then of course, you're shooting for multiple times through a set, and multiple like competitions through the day and through the week, right? So endurance aspect also is important also, right? So previously, actually, when I started my career as a strength conditioning coach, my first sport was archery, right? And they had naturally had a lot of strength just from like training through the sport, but something that they lacked a lot was endurance, where we actually focus a key part of it. Yeah. Okay, great questions. How keep it running and keep it coming.
Oh, nice, Sonia.
Sonia, how about Ife? You want to take
rugby?
this? How about rugby? Yeah, more closely related to soccer, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say rugby is closely related to soccer because of the stop-start nature. I think the biggest difference about rugby, right, is that the breaks in between each action, which action meaning like either you take the rugby ball and run, and then you encounter a tackle and you stop, and there's a break because you need to restart the game. And football is a bit lesser, and also because of the nature of the sport, I would say it's a bit more strength focused. So the circle within the triangle will start to shift a bit upwards. And generally, for rugby players, if you look at their physical profile and you compare it to a football player, you can pretty much see, right, where is it going to be dominant because muscle mass is definitely higher. And the interesting part is even rugby players, there are rugby players who weighs over 100 plus kg who can do 100 meters in less than 12 seconds. That's incredible power, like what Julian has shared with us earlier. The amount of force that they can carry over a distance in such a short time is like getting hit by a small motorcycle. So I would say, right, it's more upwards towards strength and leaning towards speed. Less endurance wise, probably not as much compared to a footballer. Okay, it's always relative to another sport. But if you are talking about rugby compared to an archery, right, then of course you need more endurance in the lower limbs compared to an archer. So I would say the defining thing will be speed and strength for a rugby player. You have to really focus on that and go and do your cleans, like what and the snatch, like what Julian has shared earlier.
Yeah, so like the rugby player, right, definitely need to increase their power output a lot more, right? So the force aspect is very important, right? Because like they call it within rugby, within basketball, it's like momentum, right? You need to be actually generating a lot of momentum, not only with the ball, the rugby ball, right? You need to be pushing against the opponent, right? So the force aspect is very, very, very important, right? To really get through like the ruck and all. All right, so we dive deep into like our textbooks, right? So why is strength important, right? Or strength conditioning important for you as a athlete, right? Okay, so there's two things, right? The main aim is actually we always want to be increasing performance, right? And second thing is always preventing injuries, right? So for the performance enhancement aspect, right? There are 5 things that we touch over here, right? So the first thing is to increase the rate of force development or RFD, right? So in simple terms, it's like you want to try to generate the force as fast as possible or make your muscles contract as fast as possible, right? Okay. Secondly, right, is also the power aspect, right? Talk over here, right? So increasing your power output will actually help you to improve jumping, sprinting, change the direction performance, right? Third, right, okay, is also to be increasing the greater magnitudes of potentiation, right? So our muscles, right, actually all have different thresholds of how much force it can produce, right? So with more strength training, right, there's actually more neural input from your brain to try to actually contract the muscles at a greater speed, right? And also to produce more force, right? And lastly, right, is also on enhancing running economy, right? So definitely a lot of like runners, right, or with the aim of completing your 10K to your marathon, right? Strength training, what strength training helps is actually to increase your running economy by actually improving or increasing the stiffness within your muscles, right? So your muscles, right, you imagine it is like a spring, right? The stiffer the spring becomes, right, the less energy you're going to use, right, through each step, right? So actually you're conserving more energy and increasing your strength reserve to really get better and run for longer, faster time, right? Right? And all this has been shown and proven in a very recent literature, right, that is covered in 2020. Okay, so the second thing also is on injury prevention, right? So what strength training does, right, it helps stabilize your joints really well through muscle recruitment and improve rate of activation, right? So if you think of like your shoulder joint is a ball and socket joint, right? Okay, you can definitely hear like many badminton athletes, they have like impingement in their shoulder, right? That means like the ball, right, is really hitting the ends of the socket over here and then creating some discomfort and just some pain for them. Right, so strength training helps you to stabilize. Yeah, usually it's quite serious. Yeah, you go and see a physio for that, right? Yeah. So, so like you want to make sure, right, the joints are really very stable. Okay, second, right, is also on what you call tissue integrity, right? So tissue integrity is making sure your muscles, right, have the capacity to handle very high training loads, right? Because for weekend warrior, right, you don't play the game, like during the weekdays, right? You only maybe touch on it on Saturdays, Sundays, right? So you want to maybe do some strength training through the week, right? So that you won't be injuring yourself when you play and exert and try to compete with your friends on the weekends, right? So tissue integrity is important because it helps to increase the structural strength of our ligaments, tendons, cartilage, and connective tissue within the muscles, right? Okay, so the term of what us coaches always call this these days is that we want to create a very robust body, right, to handle all the training, all the competitions that you're joining, right, so that you won't be injuring yourself, right? Yeah. Okay, so how strong should you be, right? Okay, so if you dive into literature, right? Okay, it's like let's say the common exercises that we do in the gym are the bench press and the squats, right? So for upper body, right, you should be able to bench press about 1 to 1.5 your body weight, and for the low body, right, you should be able to squat 1.5 to 3 times the body weight, right? So if I can give you an example for your squats.
Is it difficult? Some of my friends are asking when I actually told them that you have to bench about 1 to 1.5 times your body weight. Like if I'm 70 kg, do you think how long will it take, right? I know this is a peeve of mine because people will usually ask, hey, I want to be this strong, how long will it take? I mean, it depends on how much you train, right? But typically, what do you think? For me, as a person that has been I'm 70, and if I do a bench press of 70 kg, how long will it take, right, for me to work up to 1.5 times my body weight if I do train like twice a week?
Yeah. So I would say there's so many like ways to train to reach that target or like the length of it, right? So it really depends. There's no straight answer for it. I can't tell you like 1 month or 2 months like like we'll definitely reach there, right? But ultimately you can actually reach there, right? So for what I would say, right? Okay, so if let's say if I take a squat for example, if you're 70 kilos, right? Okay, then to reach 1.5 is only 100 kilos, right? 100 kilos seems like a big number, right? But it's actually 100 kilos for one time, right? We don't usually do one time within the gym that often, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
some of them are thinking that we should do one time.
yeah, so it's only one time only, right? Okay, so that's how we plan it, right? And actually a reference for us to how we train it, right? So if you equate it for 5 times, right, it's probably about 75 to 85 kilograms. So it's actually very doable, all right. Okay, right. So a common question if parents are watching on this show is like, how about my son or daughter, right? That's doing should they be doing strength training to help them get better for their sports, right? So if I can share with you the literature on it, right? So the latest one on whether you should be sending your kids to the gym, right? So we can share with you this youth physical development model, right? You can see over here, right? okay, from the ages of 2 to 21, right, years old. There are actually different age periods, right, where you need to focus different elements through your training through the years, right? So they divide it into early childhood all the way to adulthood. You can see over here, right? So from maybe 2 to about 8 years old, right? FMS or fundamental movement skills should be playing a very important thing, right? So learning how to jump, run, skip, etc., right, should be a main foundation of your training.
Yep.
Then after that, further when you're getting older in adolescence age, right? SSS means sports specific skills, right? That's where you introduce the ball, okay? Where you introduce the racket, okay? It comes into more important play, right? Right. So you can see over here, right, the bigger and bolder, right, okay, the words are, right, or the letters are, right, the bigger the emphasis there should be through the training, right. But you can see over here the physical qualities on strength, right, they're big, bold, right, throughout the training times, right. So you can see over here the show is showing, right, that you need to really have a focus of strength through the whole growth cycle of the athlete. Right? But definitely, we won't be, throwing 100 kilos barbell onto a youth athlete, right, Ife? Right? So,
Yep.
how we're going to go about it, right? Okay, it's like when someone's introduced to weight training, especially in the youth, right? We always start with body weight exercises, lightweight, just to focusing on a lot more technique before they really focus, to more barbell work, dumbbell work, and even plyometric exercises. Yep.
And just now we have a question from one of the audience. The question is actually any exercises that we can do before or after play because no time for a gym. And amazingly, the question came at the right time because this is what I'm going to talk about next. And I do not know if you are telepathic, if can. Okay, so this is a very good question because most weekend warriors, right? We didn't say weekend warriors. Why weekend warriors? Because during the weekdays we have no time to either go to the gym or we have no time to play sports. That's why the activities have to take place during the weekend. And there are certain things that we can do actually during before the session or after the session to help you in your sports performance. And like what Julian has said just now, those are really ideas and things that all of us should go and think about if you want to talk about sports performance. Like, hey, I'm a rugby player. What is the most important to me? Strength. Okay, I'm going to improve on that. I'm going to use squats. I'm going to go and learn cleans. I need power. Or like archer, the specific fitness components that an archer need, I will go and focus on that. So that's really one good takeaway from what Julian has shared with us just now. Think about what you need for a sport. Is it endurance? Is it power? Is it strength? And if you know that those are the more dominant ones, go and focus on that. Because there are certain, you'll be surprised, some footballers, they don't train agility. They just think that the warm-up will be running circles on the field. And that is totally not specific to their sport. So next one that we are going to go into is sport-specific warm-up. This is something that you can do before the session actually, not so much after. All right. So sport-specific warm-up, there are a few. Later, I'm going to share with you something called FIFA F11 Plus. Why is this good? Because this has been proven effective. And such programs are called injury prevention program. And I will tell you a bit more about why. So the first thing off our mind is what can this injury prevention program do? The title explains itself, injury prevention. But actually, some research has shown that it can improve balance, agility, like what Julian had said, able to change your body in a different direction in reaction to a stimulus. Vertical jump, not because you have more power, it's just because you have more stability, your muscles, you can use it better, you learn to execute the movement better. And sprints, same thing, because of more stability, you learn to execute the movement better. And this injury prevention program has been shown to improve on all this. And of course, it differs from people to people. And the interesting fact about this is if you do it regularly enough, even over 8 to 10 weeks, there was a study shown, there is a increase. There's an improvement of 28%, right? Or rather, the reduction of 28% risk of lower limbs injury just by doing these exercises. That's quite a lot, that's 1/3. All right. And why is reducing injury so important? Because if you think about it, it's actually a hack for sports performance. And I'm sure all of you have stories to share about your friends, right? Like, hey, why isn't Ahok coming to play football this weekend? Hey, where is Charles at the badminton court? I don't see him anymore. Yeah, sprained the ankle or wow, pull the hamstring. And then we don't see that fella for another 2-3 months. And then the person come back, yes, I'm back. Then after a few more months, hey, where is he again? Or pull the hamstring again. So if you look at this chart, right, very interestingly, athlete A is the person who it gets injured continuously. So he can go up his performance, then he get injured, drops again. So over a period of time, right, it's always at the same state. And you look at athlete B, right, he does injury prevention program, he lowers his risk of injury program. Then over time, right, even though he didn't do a lot, right, just because he stay injury free, his performance can slowly increase. So it's a great hack just to stay injury free. And it's very simple, okay? And like what Ken said, right, the next one I'm going to show you some basic exercises that you can do before. And this is proven effective. All right. If you can play the exercises and you can fast forward to, I think, the middle part. Okay, this is more specific to football, but I would say if for a badminton player, you can even do a single leg squat and take the racket and try to serve the shuttlecock to each other just by doing this. And repetition, you can go by 15 to 20 serves, or you can go by time base, about 30 to a minute. And you can do it before each game. It's still better than doing nothing. Okay. And there's another one that I can show you, another video. So this is more for, just now Sonia asked, right? This is for rugby or people with contact sports. You want to have a bit of stimulus. So single leg, and you try to push. And what happens is you are trying to keep a balance on single leg. If you guys think about it, when you run or when you jump, right? There's always this you always be landing on one leg, either when you change in direction. And sometimes in sports, when you run, somebody will push you, and then you need to maintain your balance again, right? Regain your balance. So you can see the two fella is trying to get each other off balance, and the knee is actually learning how to right itself. And that is very important. It's not about so much strength, it's about really balance and your reaction to this stimulus. Same thing, like what Ken has asked, do it before your badminton, do it before your volleyball, or even rugby players, football players. Same thing, time-based, 30 seconds. Of course, when I did it with my players, some of them were very playful, they would use the shaft as if they're going to kill the person. No, just a gentle tap on the shoulders, just to give them a bit of balance. Remember, it's warm-up. And the next one, when you see, right, the next hack will be feedback. Because as amateur athletes, or rather we call it weekend warriors, right, you just play. How do you know you are doing better? Or how do you know like what you are doing? And you can identify what Julian has asked you to do. Even the barbell match, you can't really understand, you can't really have a feel of whether your technique has been executed correctly. Badminton player, whether your serve, whether your smash. So if you don't have a coach, how do you get feedback? It's very easy, actually. Okay, I'm going to show you next. Now, with all of us, right, we have mobile phones or tablets. And most of the camera, right, sometimes you have high-speed cameras, which means you can capture slow-mo. And from this camera, like we maybe we explained just now, it might take a bit more work, but I can guarantee you, just by taking these videos of yourself and looking at those actions that you executed, and then after that you compare it with a pro athlete, you can actually make significant improvement in pretty short time if you really go and analyze. Or you can find a sports coach to help you with it. I'm sure some of you have a sports coach. Hey, take a look at my badminton serve, or hey, take a look at my kicking form. How does it look like? Some of the examples I have done with my players, for example, with one of the national women's team player, She's learning how to take a free kick. As you can see, right, I took a video of her, and for a sports coach, when we look at this, we can see that there's certain things to improve. So we trim it out. And you can see at the next one, the next slide, that I've taken out this out, and I've compared it with professional athletes. So basically, when we look at this, right, we understand that her lean is not enough, and it's count. She's trying to do an in-swinger. And when you do an in-swinger, you need to do a counterbalance, which means when you kick the ball to the left, you need to lean to the right. So you are like a weighing scale, but she doesn't do it, right? And how can we tell her? I can talk to her, I can tell her, hey, so and so, you are not leaning enough to the opposite side. The best way is actually to take a video of yourself, and then you look at it, and pretty much you can compare to a good player or a good badminton player, and you can immediately try to improve. Oh, hey, I didn't put my hand back enough. And then the next one, you do it again, and then take a video of yourself again. Hey, actually I improved. And that's pretty effective, right? And for the next one, you can see also, this is a golfer that I've helped to train recently. He has limited rotation for his upper back, and this is something that most golfers wouldn't want, right? If you cannot rotate, that means some other players will rotate, and usually the lower back will do it. And this app is free. There are certain features that are paid, but you don't really need them. You can use this on yourself, do a front-facing camera. It is a bit more complicated than most apps, but basically you can actually draw some lines and see whether you are symmetrical when you rotate to the left or when you rotate to the right, whether both of them are the same. Especially for swimmers, if you do bilateral breathing, you want both sides to have good rotation also. So this is something that you can invest in, and it's free. And the last one, probably, which is pretty popular now, everybody has almost, I think, I would say 50% of people I see now on the street has a wearable, Garmin, Fitbit, Apple Watch. And what all this does, right, is also a form of feedback. It gives you a visual reference of how fast you are running, coming back from software and hardware. And the next one I can show you is some stats that I've put up from my own activity. And it's over the course of the circuit breaker. Some of us run, right? And even like amateur athletes or amateur runner, you are trying to maybe finish your first half marathon or even the first 10K, and you want to do it in good timing. You want to be able to see whether my pace is correct, whether I'm being consistent. I don't want to run too fast. I want to run at a comfortable pace. And now with most wearables, the GPS is pretty accurate. The pacing, which means the pacing, right, will be, the margin of error is insignificant. And from there, you can understand, oh, like me, if you look at the graph, for me, in April, I'm running like 8 minutes, 52 seconds per km. And I'm slowly building it up to 6 minutes, 37 seconds per km. And I'm telling myself, okay, the next time I run, I'm going to run maybe 10 seconds faster, which means I don't overdo it and I don't get injured. And like I said just now, if I don't overdo it, I don't get injured. Slowly and gradually, I will surely improve. And that's another hack for you. So just by looking at all the data of your wearables, right, you can manage your own training and your own performance, right, quite easily because you have numbers. It's no longer just a gut feel. And gut feel is something that we don't really recommend in the sport science realm. So try it out. Just do simple monitoring like this. This will be really, really, really useful.
Hey, Ife, just gonna ask, like,
Yes.
what should be a good average pace to get the goal in a 2.4? Man?
Oh, a good average pace to get a goal. If you are, let's say, if you are young, I would say if you are young, or young means you are going to reserve, really going to BMT, all right. I can't remember what is the exact timing now, but I would think that it's below 9:45 or below 10:15, which means, right, pretty much your pace needs to be under 5 minutes per km. Yeah, and that would be, and for some of you who is trying to do it, that means every time you run, you need to see your pace gets closer and closer to that required timing, and that's where the wearable will come in. And the last one, to sum it all up, like what Julian has mentioned, that you need to know what is the dominant fitness inside your sport. If you're a rugby player, if you're an archer, you cannot just facelift something off the YouTube or look for somebody who say, hey, I'm interested in sport. Actually, I also play sports. Let me teach you what to do, or let me share with you. So probably all these, right, you might not be able to get the most accurate information. The best way to get the most accurate information is really to go and look for sources that have been verified, or people or sports scientists. Don't even have to be us. If you have somebody that is trusted, or somebody that have worked with, that study sports and exercise science in their university and have practiced with athletes and have actually produced results, right? Yeah, look for them. Why? So that they can give you something that is specific to you. Remember, like if, for example, if you are going to buy a pair of leather shoes, or you want to buy a suit, the best suit usually be tailor-made, right? And it's customized to fit yourself. And if you buy something that's ready-made, usually there are some parts that are off. You can still wear it, but it will not be as nice fitting. And if you are talking about performance, every percent counts. You want something that really suits you. Or even if you talk about medication, you don't want it to be just a general prescription, like Panadol for everything. Right? You want something, hey, tell me usually what is one medication, right, that will actually be suitable for my condition. So that's the thing. Start thinking about how the training, right, actually so the next time somebody tell you, hey, try this training, hey, try that, okay, stop. How does it suit my profile? So that's the question, that how do you know it suits me? So that is the question that you should be asking that person who is recommending to you. And Ken also has another question.
Yep.
How does a wearable help for badminton or football? The reason why I actually use running example, because some of the wearables for running is, I would say, you have affordable options, such as like Fitbit. You can get it pretty much below like $200, or even Polar heart rate monitor. But for badminton or football, right, because wearable, those wearables specific to the sports of badminton and football, you want to see change of direction, like agility. You want to see how many times you have changed direction, how many times you have made a short sprint. So there are wearables that can do that. It's called Catapult, and it's a player tech. And the more expensive versions, which cost above $500 can detect it indoors. So wearable help for badminton or football, I would say most likely to keep track of your heart rate for the weekend warriors. For example, you want to use badminton, right, as a form of exercise to maintain your cardiovascular health. Okay, like maybe my friend Michael, he did an hour of badminton last Sunday, and that hour, his average heart rate is about 130 beats per minute. Oh, okay, not bad. It's about moderate. Next time round, I want to also maintain the same heart rate. And if the heart rate is a bit higher, maybe I'll say I want to drop a bit because I want to exert too much, because next day is a working day. Or if the heart rate is too low, I need to push a bit because it's not intense enough. It's not the stimulus. So I would say for badminton and football weekend warrior, probably the wearable, right, is good enough to track heart rate. But for football, it's a bit more tricky because it's a contact sport. You wouldn't want to wear a wearable. Try wearing a heart rate monitor that can record offline, and when you go out of the field, it syncs with your phone or syncs with your wearable and downloads the data. Yeah, be careful. You don't want to smash your wearable against somebody's face.
Yeah.
And
so
we have
so these are the references, like we've actually dived deep into the journals to find the latest information to share with you guys, right? You can see everything is like we have journals that's published this year, 2020, right, to share with you all the latest out there, and like whatever that we are sharing, all the points, right, you definitely know is backed by science. Yeah, so thank you everyone
for your kind attention. Thank you very much. And sorry, Julian, you have something to say? Please go ahead.
Just appreciate everyone taking their time off this Sunday morning, right, to spend an hour with myself and Etienne over here, right, to learn more about sports science, right. We hope it's been insightful for you, right. We translated the jargons into biteable size that you can practice, Monday onwards for training as well as your own sport, right. So if you have any questions, I think our contact details are here for you to hit us a message.
Do continue to ask questions. We'll be hanging around for another minute or so. And like what Julian said, do follow us on our Instagram. Not because we want to be influencers or what. We as sports scientists, we are pretty much, we just want to share good sports science information out there. And it's pretty hard to find good sports science information because I would say it's quite a niche market now, probably. But like what the hacks that we shared today, try it out. Let us know if it's effective. If it's not effective, tell us why also. We want to improve. We want to be able to give you all good information. And also, please follow Tampines SAFRA on their Instagram and Facebook page. And yeah, we hope to see you next month. We will be coming out with another live show. And if you have any interesting topics that you would like us to cover, even specific to your sports, do drop us a comment on our Facebook page, Tampines SAFRA Facebook page, or even on our own Sports Science Project Facebook page shared here. All right. If not, please have a good Sunday and everyone stay safe. And thank you very much again.